Alright guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this one we are doing another Meet the Brewery video. So this time I am at Põhjala Pruulikoda, Põhjala Brewery in North Tallinn, or the Noblessner shipyard as this particular area is known. An old shipyard that used to build submarines away back in the early 20th century. But as you can see behind me, we have the Põhjala tap room and brewery. So we're going to go in, have a little bit of a look around, and we're going to do some interviews and things like that. I hope you enjoy this second installment of Meet the Brewery, and this one was very much fun to film. I'm actually filming this little introduction for you at the end of my visit here, but yeah, I think you're in for a bit of a treat with this video, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So enjoy what's coming up. This has been great to film this one, and I'll catch you guys very soon. More from the Meet the Brewery series to come very soon. Slàinte, skål, Terve 6. So you guys, just to let you see the exterior of this place, as I say, this is an old kind of shipyard and things. So there you can see, here's the entrance to the sort of lobby area, tap room Pohjala. They've got some of the kind of old malt silos. If you go through here, this is where they've got their delivery entrance and things just up right through here. But yeah, this is the exterior of this building. So yeah, pretty damn cool, I have to say. Let's go in and see how we get on. So guys, yeah, from just outside the tap room, you've got this lovely kind of top balcony. You've got one of these kind of steel spiral staircases, but yeah, look at this. You've got this lovely little balcony here that when it's open, you can come out here and sit. But just look at this place. This is just where I filmed the interview with Chris and N a while ago. And just look at the size of this place. It's just craziness. Again, it's a beautiful tap room, I have to say. Very impressive tap list up there. You know, they've got lots of different things. I've got two little glasses of the Moonraker. There's a few different versions of this, the Moonraker of course, and there's also the Virmalisid, Northern Lights beer, various other different things. So yeah, they've basically got 24 different varieties of their own beer. But yeah, you just have to say, this is a beautiful tap room. And of course, you can look out over here on top of the brewing kit, that big 5 hectolitre Rolex thing. Really impressive facility. I'm here on a Monday when the tap room is closed, of course, because Ian and Chris very kindly let me in to do the interview and things with them. But yeah, really impressive tap room. They're just absolutely lovely. So yeah. Right guys, so Ian told me just basically go through the brewery and film wherever I like. So here we are. So as you can see here, this is the main brew kit that they have. It's a big 5 hectolitre Rolex kit. So yeah, they've got their different water tanks on this side here. So this one I know is hot water, cold water tank. I can't remember exactly what Ian said this one does here, but you know, obviously lots of shiny steel, very impressive. And they've got a steam powered generator in here, so the whole thing is steam powered, natural gas generator, this one. And they also have their water treatment as well, so they have a different water profile for each beer, from what I understand. So yeah, this is pretty cool actually. But yeah, if we just walk through here then, you can see these are the different, this is a 4-vessel brew kit. So yeah, 4 vessels up here, mash tun, then they take, this is where the second one is where they take the sugars out of it. The next one is the boiling kettle, from what I understand, and then the last one I think is where they do all the hopping and stuff, and then this last little tank over here is where they do they add fruits and tonka beans and all these kind of random things. But it's very cool. It's you know, it's controlled all from their magic deck up here. So yeah, they've got their office in here where it's all controlled. And there you've got the mastermind, Chris, working away. Yeah, and but yeah, this is where they all do the works, so you can see it's very computer generated and snazzy and stuff like that. So yeah, guys working hard there. Awesome. But yeah, get stuck. Cheers, thank you. Sorry, yeah, so there we go. Messing up the door, disturbing these guys, so yeah. But yeah, no, that's the brewing side of it. If we go through here, you can see that they've got, this is the bottling line here. So today, they're bottling a beer called Cinnabon, which goes to their French distributor. This is a beer that you'll only see in France. But yeah, lovely Italian bottling line, which is pretty damn impressive. But yeah, lots of other different tanks. And here, just over around there, is their cold room where they keep the hops and stuff. And yeah, these are all the different fermentation tanks and things here. So yeah, it's a really pretty damn impressive setup, I have to say. But yeah, Ian was telling me that they can basically use all this space where the barrels are just now to, this is where they're going to expand, so they'll have, basically whenever they're at full capacity, they'll have 3 rows of tanks all the way up this whole hall, which is pretty incredible. But then yeah, through here, this is where they keep some of the this is where they keep all the different malts and things like this. And yeah, you know, all the glass bottles and things like that. This is the waxing station, because they basically hand wax all of the barrel aged beers that they do. But yeah, through here, this is basically their barrel hall. The thing that's interesting, when you walk around here, you know, you can smell the oil. You can still smell the oil from when this was like a submarine kind of shipyard thing. But yeah, there's a hell of a lot of barrels in here. A lot of cognac barrels, bourbon barrels, you know, you name it. Pohjala have got it. So yeah, it's craziness. But yeah, you have to say, a very, very impressive facility actually, this one. So yeah, that's a little walkthrough of the brewery for you. So I'm going to go up the stairs and meet Ian once again and have a little chat. So yeah, let's do it, guys. But yeah, you stand here, you just get you stand at this end of the brewery, you just get a feel for how big this thing is. An old, you know, basically an old shipyard. It's just craziness, and you can see everyone. It's a multinational team apparently. A couple of Australian guys, a few Estonians. Chris is Scottish, obviously. So yeah, really impressive facility. Awesome stuff. Alright guys, so that was where I started filming the little walkthrough of the brewery earlier on. But just next to it, you have this little bit here, the sort of lobby area. So from what Ian was telling me, this is where they start their brewery tours. So they've got a little kind of mini bar down here. And yeah, he says that they use this, they get a lot of people coming from the likes of Japan and other random places, and they say they came to Estonia just because they, you know, tried some of the Pohjala beers. So this is where they sell their merchandise and stuff. You've got all these different things, lots of nice t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like this. So yeah, pretty cool, I have to say. Yeah, here's one of the hoodies here that you can have a look at. And yeah, prices pretty reasonable, very, very reasonable, I have to say. But yeah, hats and things like that. And then here's, these kegs apparently are going to different bars and stuff around Tallinn. But yeah, you can buy glassware, lots of different things there. But yeah, they've got a whole different series of beers here. You'll get different things in these fridges whenever you like. So yeah, they've got the Winter Banger, Forest Banger, lots of different Berliner Weisses and stuff, Gozes, Winter Sour, Moonraker, other IPAs and stuff here as well. Cosmos IPA, that's one that I've had before. The Pilsner, and then the Birmalise, the Northern Lights, and Rye River Ale. So you've got all of this, and then you've got more merchandise here. Again, the glassware. and stuff like this. So yeah, they've got a really nice shop layout down here. So yeah, if you get the chance, I do recommend that you come here and check this out. But yeah, this is, as I say, where they start all their brewery tours, and they kind of open this up to sort of foreign guests, from what I hear, that have come from quite a distance. So yeah, another nice little bit of the brewery. This one's on the ground floor. Right guys, well, welcome back to Rampant Lion Reviews once again. We're in Tallinn, in Estonia now, and I'm joined by Paarel and Chris Pilkington at Pohjala in their tap room in northwest-ish Tallinn.
Yeah, it's kind of northern Tallinn, even the part of town is called North Tallinn. So.
Okay.
The little submarine port of Estonia.
Oh, nice, okay. Because I think I saw on the map that it was
Petri Street,
Petri Street.
So it's Peter Street.
Okay. Because I know Petri Pizza.
Yeah, exactly. That's Peter's Pizza, but not related.
Oh, right, okay. Well, guys, yeah, if you come to Estonia, the sort of almost Domino's equivalent is Petri Pizza, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty good, I think. It's kind of one of these things you have to try along with Hässelburger if you come to Estonia. So.
Which is Finnish.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay, right. Didn't know that was Finnish.
Tried in Finland and Estonia.
Yeah.
Why not? But yeah, guys, this is a really nice interview. So this is the second Meet the Brewer interview that we've done after Nerd Brewing in Malmö. And yeah, you know, Ian and Chris were kind enough to do this. So yeah, thank you for joining us. And this is very cool as well, because this is Pohjala are basically the almost like the godfathers of the Estonian beer movement. If foreigners think about Estonian craft beer, the first name that comes up is Pohjala.
Yeah, it probably is. I wouldn't call us the godfathers, but you know, we were the first to kind of come up with the idea of craft brewing in Estonia before the kind of the boom started. But there were small breweries who were doing different stuff even before us, but they made these very kind of traditional things like the koduvõlu, which is akin to the Finnish sahti.
Yeah.
And then there was a brew pub in the old town that was doing these kind of Baltic lagers. So yeah, there were a few, but we kind of really started. We were the first one to kind of start the new wave of craft brewing in Estonia.
Sort of modern craft beer that I think we're all very familiar with these days.
Yeah, probably it's fairer to say then that you guys brought the American style beers to Estonia. Is that
in a way, yeah, but the thing is that we've always wanted to kind of brew with a twist. So we didn't just take styles from America and bring them to Estonia, but we kind of added something.
Yes, for example, our very first beer release was an Imperial Baltic Porter, and for there I would say we were taking like a bit of maybe the American attitude towards craft, but then applying it to something that was already like from Estonia originally in a way. We were just revisiting a historical thing, but with the fresh eyes, a fresh take on that sort of thing. And it helps that it was also the most different thing you can possibly get from a mainstream Euro lager.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, because my first encounter with, well, for a bit of background for you guys watching, I was in Estonia back in 2013. One of my really good friends from Aberdeen I studied with him in chemistry, and he was from Tallinn. So when I came here before, it was all Saku, Alacoque, Carl Friedrich, but I think that's brewed by one of the big two.
It's brewed by Saku.
Yeah. So I mean, back then it was basically all of these beers, and now you come and you've got Pohjala, you've got Puasta, you have Tankar, Putsa, I'm trying to think who else. You know,
there's a lot. I think there's like 50 craft beer brands in the market right now that are Estonian, and of them about half are gypsies or contract brewers, and the other half is the guys who own their own equipment. Some of them very small, but some of them larger. We are among the larger ones.
But yeah, Estonia in general these days punches well above its weight in terms of like craft beer culture, I would say.
Oh yeah, because I think now it seems to be a sort of thing in the Nordics and the Baltics, because in Sweden, for 10 million people, there's 500 breweries. These days there's somewhere in the region of 500, and a lot of that I think is the strength of the home brewing culture, because of how strict the laws are. So it's interesting that obviously Estonia's made that kind of transition from communism in the early 90s to being a very modern, very developed country now. And it's almost the kind of the same thing. You've got probably about a similar, it's about 50 breweries, about a tenth of the size, and it's the same density. If you think about that.
Yeah.
Just a quick calculation.
Yeah.
But yes, it's interesting that in the Baltics and the Nordics this seems to really have taken off. So it's awesome. But yeah, so we've kind of started off on the Estonian beer scene. I mean, my first encounter with Pohjala would have been about 2015-ish, and it was the Black Forest IPA. I'm sure was the first one. Yeah.
It was then called Pesakant, I think, the predecessor of Mets. Yeah.
Because I actually think that I'm trying to remember where I got it, but I remember that was the very first encounter that I had with Pohjala. It might have either been, I might have either bought it in Sweden or in Germany, I think. And I studied, it was the thing that caught my eye with it because it was Black Forest, and I studied a little bit in Heidelberg, Germany as well, so right next to the Black Forest. So that was the reason that I got it, and it was an Estonian beer. I hadn't tried an Estonian craft beer. So yeah, and I remember that one because the thing, back then, if anyone had asked me about Pohjala, what I would have said, well, these guys are great at adding stuff, adding adjuncts into the beers. This is what they seem to do. I was telling N earlier that the stuff that we get through Systembolaget, it's either IPAs or it's the things like the bangers, the different banger beers. So we don't really get things like this. So we're N and I are drinking Pilkington.
I think Chris too.
Are you drinking it as well? Yeah, so this is the 5% lager beer. So yeah, we don't really get things like these ones in Sweden. So it's cool to hear and see all the different styles and stuff. Yeah. But what would you say, like, since you guys started you were saying it was 2012, you were doing contract brewing.
Yes.
And then the first brewery you had, which was Roma? Was it the Roma district?
It was the Nume.
Yeah, so in the Nume district, you opened that in like 2014.
Yeah, in April.
So 2014, and then so from then, over that period of time to now, what would you say? How would you sum up the growth of the Estonian beer scene?
I mean, this has been this has really been spectacular because there are so many breweries these days, and you can talk about the boom, but a boom has kind of negative connotations in a way that there's hype involved and maybe a fad, but actually there are very many very good breweries that have kind of sprung up from people who love beer. And I think this is the most important thing, that craft breweries are successful usually when they are founded by people who really love beer, not love money so much. So it's kind of a labor of love, I would say, and the development of the market has been really, really, fast and very good, because like Chris said, Estonia does punch above its weight. So Estonian beer is becoming quite widely recognized, because we are not the only ones definitely who are producing great beer. You just named a few, but there are other guys too who do good stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think one thing that's actually been a very positive development is like when we first started, first sort of beer festival that we attended immediately prior to opening was Barcelona Beer Festival. We're like, yeah, we're from Estonia, we're just opening our own brewery there. And everyone was like, Estonia, where's that? And it's like, oh, you're all making lagers or something easy. And now it's like you go to a festival and people are like, ooh, another Estonian brewery. So people not only know the country, but they also know that it has a reputation generally for very, very excellent craft beer.
Yeah. And
that's this super positive halo effect that I think we all benefit from, because we all know that we can take a bit of a risk. We can do something that we love in terms of brewing, because people won't be so hesitant about it. People will be going into it already thinking I definitely want to give this a try. And you can see a lot more experimentation happening than from when we first started. Because this Black Forest IPA that you were talking about, that was with forest blueberries and spruce tips. At the beginning of our sort of venture, then that seemed absolutely crazy. People were like, "Oh, you can put this sort of stuff in beer." Now, if we were to release that, then people would be like, "Oh, is that all you've done?" You know? Almost.
Yeah, I mean, that, as I say, that's if people ask me about Pohjala, and I think like 2,300 beer reviews into the channel now, if people ask me about Pohjala, or like what would you say about Pohjala? What's the first thing? It'd be like adding stuff to the beer, putting adjuncts in, experimenting with the adjuncts. But I mean, it's more recently, I think, maybe in the last 2 years, that I actually tried, like IPAs, like the West Coast IPAs, the New England IPAs. So that was kind of an interesting thing as well, because I think for a long time it was just dark beers that I'd had from you guys as well. So that's an interesting thing. Like I said to Ian, this is the first time I've tried a lager. But I'm going through a bit of a lager phase just now, like Dunkels, Pilsners, all of these kind of things.
I think this might be our only lager at the moment. So we do a lot of top fermentation, so we are ale guys, but this is kind of our take on a German style Pilsner. So and it has been very popular. It's like here in the tap room, it's our best selling beer. Partly probably because we have several IPAs on tap that kind of combined they outsell the Pilsner, but it's the only Pilsner already, the only lager, so it's a very popular product.
Oh yeah, because I mean, well, this is the sort of thing that people that, usually what will happen is you've got a group of people coming, there'll be a couple that don't really know so much about craft beer, so you've got to kind of cater for that as well. But I mean, I always say with the lager beers, you rate them in terms of authenticity. You don't expect them to do anything crazy like your black IPAs or your Bengals and stuff like this. So it's, this, like, in terms of authenticity, I think this one's really quite nice. It's one of the smoother Pilsners. I think this one is quite. I always find this interesting when you go to different breweries. Some of them are a bit more hoppy, like the Italian Pilsners, or some of them are a bit more biscuity. But this one, I think, is quite sort of smooth and bready. There's a little bit of biscuit to it in the hops. I suppose it's like 20-ish IBUs. So yeah, I quite like that with Pilkey.
Yeah, we dumped quite a few batches of this until we were like fully happy with it. Opening a new brewery, trying out new things. You've got two choices: you either release something you're not happy with, or you dump it and keep trying it.
Well, that kind of shows the commitment then, is that you want a good product to go out, and you can tell just from talking to the two of you that you're very kind of passionate about it.
Yeah, it's like this has been kind of our modus operandi, that we don't release anything that we're not happy with. So if we have a beer in development and it doesn't work out, we just dump it, we rebrew it. If we don't like that one either, we dump it again until we get it right. So that's how we have done all new product developments. So yeah, this year's biggest kind of product development thing was the alcohol-free IPA, which is again adding a little bit a small twist. We brewed it with spruce tips again, which is a great ingredient in the sense that it's straight from nature. It's kind of hand foraged from the forest that is local, and it has a great flavor. You can only pick it for like 2 weeks after they emerge, because otherwise they get too bitter and resiny. But we like the nice tart flavor of the fresh spruce tips. So I mean, spruce tips is something that I remember from childhood. I always, in the spring, I used to pluck them from the spruces and just eat them because they tasted good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been, that black IPA was the first time I tried the spruce tips in the beer, and it worked really nicely. I mean, I think the only other brewery I've come across that do that would be like Dugas from Gothenburg, and they like to put random things in the beer as well. They've got this series that they just released the 15, so they've released the 15 sour, which has got 15 fruits, an IPA that's got 15 hops, and then a stout that's got 15 different sort of adjuncts added to it, I think, or 15 different malts, I forget. But yeah, that was their thing quite recently, and it was they were interesting beers. I wouldn't say they're the best ones that took us to, but they were, things like that. It's sometimes with that you can just go a little bit too crazy.
It's like a concept beer. It reminds me a bit of our 10 apple stout that we did with 10 different apples. We brewed it together with 2L from Denmark, and we had 5 Danish apple varieties and 5 Estonian, and they were
treated in 10 different ways.
Yeah.
So we had stuff like we fermented in some apple juice in there. We aged in Calvados barrels. We used dried apple chips in oil, mashed in with apple pulp, to try everything possible to try and incorporate and layer the apple character in there as much as possible. Because it sprang from the conversation of apples are absolutely delicious. We both kind of grew up with them, and they're common, extremely common in both countries. And yet at the same time in beer, they're always considered as an off flavor. But what happens if you take an off flavor, but you try and make it an on flavor? I guess.
So am I understand this was like one beer where you treated the apple. It was one stout and you had 10 different varieties of apple and it treated 10 different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
That was trying to keep track of this whole project was quite insane actually.
Yeah.
Trying to just listening to it, you're like, right, how does this work? So guys, this kind of highlights what Pohjala is all about, just playing with stuff and seeing what works, I think, isn't it? Like playing with stuff, experimenting, but still putting out pretty damn good products, I would say.
But with 10 apple stout, we also had a third counterpart who was like a really good addition. He's a very kind of a great Danish chef who is the chef de cuisine at the Brew's restaurant in Denmark, which is associated with Jewel. So he was kind of, he brought the fermentation ideas, and he brought a lot of these ideas to the table. So it was really like
a really true collaboration.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just slapping a name on it, but this is not that we were kind of saying, oh, we want to do this, but rather it was like we both came together and we were constantly feeding and late night texting each other like, well, I wasn't able to get this, but we could try this instead, things like this.
I've heard that that's quite a common thing in collaborations. A lot of emails and stuff go back and forth to agree a recipe, and then when you actually meet up, it's like the home brewery has the ingredients all there, booth done, and then we drinking a few beers afterwards.
Yeah.
Usually, hopefully, we have the ingredients there ready to go.
It's amazing just how these kind of how all these kind of things can go together. So this is probably a good point to go in, because I prepared some kind of different sort of questions there to talk about the history of the brewery and the kind of things that I showed you guys earlier. So if we kind of go through it, and to finish off that little bit then, in terms of collaborations, what is the furthest away brewery that you guys have collaborated with, and what would you say is the most, so we could ask the furthest away brewery you've collaborated with, maybe most interesting brewery in terms of like learning yourselves about brewing, and I think maybe just your favourite one, so.
Well, I can answer the favourite one straight off the bat. That is an even tie between Ludwig and two of our best friends in the brewing industry. We generally do at least once a year with them, if not both in one of them. We have 2 big collabs in the tank right now. One of which may never see the light of day for a long, long time. Getting tucked away in a file, however. In terms of furthest away, I'd say it's probably one we did for a beer festival in China. We brewed the brewery in Taiwan, Taiwan Head Brewers, and that was a small, tiny little brewery there for Jingge's project, where they bring, kind of similar to the Rainbow Project, where they bring one country together with lots of other countries.
Yeah.
So
the Rainbow Project. Didn't you do one with Holy Mountain?
No.
Okay.
No,
Not yet. Okay, it was planned for TCW, but alas, the pandemic, no TCW.
In fact, all my favorite collabs have been the ones that we had to cancel this year. but certainly. So that was a case of like there were 8 breweries at this festival from outside of the internationally, and 8 from the provinces of China plus Taiwan and Hong Kong. So we were paired up with the Taiwanese brewery, and it was probably the geographically furthest away that we've ever done. But I mean, we've gone as far otherwise as
Florida,
Bend, Oregon, Florida.
Oh, Bend, Oregon, yeah, that's maybe even further away than Taiwan. It might be. Yeah, it was Boneyard.
Could be. We need to hit up Chile or Argentina. That would be,
Well, I mean, this
or
is
New Zealand for that matter. That's like on the opposite side of the world.
Oh yeah, because well, I mean, this is the thing. It's like my girlfriend's from Japan, so I've only had Taihu from Taiwan. Come to think of it, and they're doing some really interesting stuff. But you go over there now, Hong Kong. I was there last year. They've got some really strong craft breweries there.
Young Master.
Young Master, Heroes Brewing Company, Yardley Brothers. There's like quite a few of them out there.
Yeah, I know those guys. I was also at the Young Master Festival last year, so I met all these Hong Kong guys.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, the Hong Kong they've got very interesting scene. South Korea's got a few really good breweries, but the problem that they had last year is they don't have a cold chain supply yet. So like you could only get beer in the cans from the brewery itself. And so for me, liking to take these beers home, research the brewery, and sit down and taste it, that was a bit of a problem. So it's like I was getting these unpasteurized things. It's like, right, film it at the hotel, drink it, there you go. But Japan now as well, like some of the Japanese beers are crazy, but in Japan it's, some of these beers you only get them in the prefecture. Like I found a beer in Japan once, you could only get it on the train that went between these 2 stations. And that was it, and the sakes are like that as well. Sake is their kind of craft beer, so it's amazing when you go to these different countries, you see so many random different things like that. So yeah, I mean, the thing I've noticed, I like when you go to different countries, you notice trends about the beer. The thing I've noticed about Estonian beer is that it's very smooth. It's almost like every beer seems to have almost just like a very smooth, ready backbone to it. Not quite as thick, if you like, as that you might find in the Czech beers, but it's like it's almost like a very smooth pale malty base. It's kind of like that in my mind. So I've noticed that trying some of the different breweries, because mainly it's Puhasta and you guys that we get fairly regularly.
We love Puhasta.
Oh, those guys are awesome as well. Yeah, these guys are really cool. And I noticed it's interesting. Puhasta have all these IPAs. You guys have all the kind of Imagine beers and things like this. And then you've got Leia brewing the mad high alcohol things. It's really cool. But even when you go between these variety of styles, I still find the Estonian beer really smooth, very, very smooth. I think that's what I've noticed, the sort of trend of the Estonian stuff is. You go to Slovenia, they like their beers oily. You come here, they like them smooth. The Germans like the beers kind of crisp. And I think noticing these little things is really interesting.
Okay.
But let's go to these kind of questions then. So to both of you then, the first one I have, what is your earliest encounter with craft beer?
That's a hard one, because I don't know what can be considered craft beer, because I've drunk and loved beer all my life, so that's actually the main reason why I was among the people who founded Põhjala, was just the love for beer, and I've always been very serious about beer and researching it, so I don't know if you can call a British bitter enjoyed in London pub in 2002 craft beer or not, but probably the first one that really can be considered a craft beer was the Anchor Brewery. They had a beer that was available here about 10 years ago, and it was like this kind of American style IPA that was really floral and hoppy and citrusy, and I was like pretty much blown away. So maybe that's kind of a single product that I could name, but like I said, I've been kind of researching and being deeply interested in beer my whole life, so I've drank a lot of different beers, and I've had phases of, you know, what kind of beers I like. So the Malty British IPAs was a big phase for me, and it was probably in the beginning of this century.
I guess for myself, I grew up in a country where we had like a sort of controlled monopoly of the beer market. And
name the country.
Qatar in the Middle East. So there was only one store, like literally one store that you could go to, and they had a very, very small selection. But like my dad was very interested in some of the Belgian beers. I mean, that again is a similar sort of point, but like he was very keen to try some. You know, if they'd get in a new one from, we're talking very mainstream here, but if they'd get in a new one from Leffe, for example,
or Chimay.
Exactly, then he'd be very keen in
Chimay is already pretty crafty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. More craft than most of us.
Yeah,
in that sense.
exactly.
But then following that, I would say it was like, I was very into whiskey when I was at university, and most people there were, you know, into the cask ales, and I was kind of like, well, this is good, but like, went out for a little bit more. The first real shocking memory of just how craft a craft beer could be was Brewdog Paradox, served in the Blue Blazer in Edinburgh, which was Paradox aged in Freud barrels, imperial stout that they did. And this being the early sort of craft beer thing there, in a traditional pub, you know, you could order this. Basically, you could get it by the pint. So,
what's the ABV?
10 at the time.
Yeah.
So a 10 ABV, ridiculously cheeky Islay whiskey smelling beer. Was one that we, on cask by the way, was one that we shared between maybe 5 or 6 of us and still couldn't finish. And this was the point that, like, nothing against the beer, but this was the point that I realized just how flavorful beer could actually be. Like, that was just like a punch in the face, a realization.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I remember I was saying to Em before that I studied in Aberdeen, so I was at Brewdog's bar on the opening night, like 2010. And yeah, I remember first, like, one of my favourite beers was always the Hardcore IPA that they did. I really like that.
It was a double IPA, right?
Yeah.
It was a good one. I remember it too.
Because you can still get it actually at home. It's called Mr. President now. They've changed one of the hops because it was originally brewed. They had one that they brewed for Tesco that was, I think they changed one of the hops and it was called a Tesco Special Double IP, but then they changed the name to Mr. President, so you can still get it, but otherwise they say that they've stopped it, but they haven't really. They just brew it under one different hop, I think it is, and then it's basically the same beer almost. So yeah, you can still get the Hardcore IPA, but that's, in terms of the American beers, yeah, that's probably what got me into it. But my one, Irish Rauch beer, my flatmate in Aberdeen was German. We went to the Brewing bar in Aberdeen, which is the metalhead bar, and he said, "Look, you need to try Schlenkerman." And it's this beer that tasted like sausages.
I'm not a big fan of this. Yeah, I mean, like, there are people who like it and people who don't. I'm one that don't. But what I wanted to say is that I think a beer that can be attributed a lot to why Põhjala was created, or how Põhjala was created actually, was punk IPA actually. The original punk IPA, which kind of hit Estonia, and we were like, whoa, this is really good. And that's why we took the pilgrimage to the early Brewdog back in 2012, where we met Chris. So that's, you know, that's kind of a beer that has some influence on how we started out.
Because I remember when the punk IPA recipe, I think, was changed quite considerably.
I think it's changed many times.
Yeah, since the early days, because I remember, I think now it's like 5.6% or something, but I remember it being, what was it, 6 points?
Yeah, the original was 6%.
6 odd percent, yeah. So it's changed a hell of a lot now compared to what it was, I think. But that's probably a good point to talk about, to go to Em and talk about could you like sort of walk us through the kind of history, if you like, of the brewery and to where we are now, and maybe talk about the future?
Okay, I'll try to keep it short, not to bore everyone to death with history, but you know, like I said, the idea behind the brewery was that me and the co-founders, we were all beer fans, and as there wasn't much available at this time in Estonia, we kind of, you know, took trips to other countries, researched beer, got to home brewing, and then at some point we decided, okay, we're gonna found a brewery. And because there was nothing else like this available, and we knew about all these small breweries springing up. And one of the first things we did was to take a trip to Brewdog, because we had drunk Punk IPA and other Brewdog beers, liked them a lot, and I just dropped a line to Brewdog asking if we can come for a visit, and James Watt himself replied and said, yeah, no problem, come over. And so we did, and we did a tour in the brewery, met one of their head brewers, Franz, who was a very cool guy, hung out with him in Ellen, in a bar too.
That was Fraser.
Sorry, Fraserburgh, of course.
Oh, yes, this was
that was in Fraser. I mean, like that place when we were looking for it, we couldn't find it because we didn't realize that really good, well-known brewery can be in premises like that. There wasn't even a sign or something. We just recognized the place by malt silos. But but then two of the co-founders went back later to work as interns in Brewdog, and that's where they met Chris. And I remember Peter calling me and saying, we met this young dude, like he brews on their pilot kit, really good stuff, you have to taste this. We gotta invite him over and brew with it. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's invite him over and let's brew with him. And when Chris first came over and we brewed the first couple of batches of home brewed beer, we realized that we're really shit brewers. So it was like we had to get Chris on board to make it work. We made Chris an offer he couldn't refuse, and he came over in actually you started coming already during the contract days, because all contract brews were Chris's recipes, and mostly Chris was present when they were being brewed.
Yeah, it was only the first batch of beer that I wasn't there for the brewing, because I remember sort of frantic messaging going on across the day and during the bottling day and that. Yeah. And then second and first batch of Cookie Rack and O'Brien that we did, that was already moved over.
So the beers were met with great enthusiasm, and we knew that we had a good thing going, and so the decision was made that we're gonna buy a brew house and tanks and open up the brewery. The first one was just like a 12-hectare brew house and 24-hectare tanks, 5 of them, on 200 square meters, including packaging, on a small Mihine machine. And when we opened and started releasing the beers from the brewery, we understood that demand is so high that on the second week of operations, we bought 4 new tanks. So basically doubled fermenting capacity in the second week.
We had a lot of discussions early on of originally we were looking at a 1,000-liter brew house, not a 1,200 one. And I remember there was whole worries of 1,200 seems way too big. We'll never manage.
Where are we going to put all this beer?
Looking back on that already, the month we'd opened was kind of like, oof. Glad we made that call.
Oh yeah.
And then it kind of took off really like this, and I think we had been brewing in the old place for 2.5 years when we realized that we're gonna hit capacity very soon, because we had already started brewing in 2 shifts. We had expanded 4 times, so when we finished there we had 18 fermenters, and so we started looking for a new place, and this is how we kind of finally got to here, to Noblessner, the old shipyard that used to build ships and also submarines. So there were 7 submarines built here in the beginning of the 20th century, so around 1913 to 1918, something like that. And yeah, that's how we came here, and we decided to take a big step and quadruple our brewing capacity, or actually more, because okay, we have the 50-hectare brew house now, but it's a 4-vessel one as opposed to the earlier 2-vessel one, so we can brew a lot more during any 24 hours. And adding tanks, and I think the main kind of difference is that while the old brewery was like a hardcore production facility, so it was small, dingy, sweaty, hot. It was a crazy place actually. It was so much different from what it is here that, I mean, you wouldn't imagine. And the thing is that we wanted to open up towards our consumers, so that's why we added this tap room here that has been widely popular. So we are packed even at weeknights, and we'll save for the lockdown in April when we were closed for 6 weeks. But yeah, I think that's kind of the main difference that we achieved with the new place, apart from the increase in capacity, and we still have like a lot of room for expansion by adding new tanks, so we have a lot of brewing capacity but less fermentation capacity, but we're gonna get there. So yeah, so right now we are kind of coming out of the crisis pretty successfully, I would say, and continuing on what we wanted to do.
The other cool thing as well, like from a sort of beer perspective, is having this tap room. It's such a big change for us in terms of how we look at our beers as well. Because I mean, before, you know, when you're just sending it off into the wild, and we sell in stores, we sell in like craft bars and whatnot. But here you're seeing people drinking your stuff every single day. You've got people who are coming in from far who, like yourself, they'll have never tried any of the lagers or the IPAs mostly, you know. So they get to experience us for a whole first time on something brand new. And you get people who just want to come in, they want to have a meal, they want to have 3 or 4 beers, and maybe they found the one that they love and they want to just have that one at the same time. So some things like this lager, like our new and improved rye ale called Rye River, those are ones where like these are beers that it's hard to imagine us brewing like in the old place, because here you know yourself that you might want to come and it's been a nice day, and you know you're gonna have a friend over, you're gonna have like a trip down to a pub, you know. Whereas before our beers perhaps weren't reflecting that, because like we had a small tiny tap room in the centre of town, but it wasn't the sort of place that you would come and just, you know, stay for 3 or 4 and call it a night, you know. So I feel that this place has really sort of impacted the way we design our beers, you know, in that sense.
Because yeah, I can guess that if you're sending beers out, I mean, if you're exporting your beers, you want something like the Banger, or you want you want something like this that's going to make people remember that Estonian brewery, Pohjala. You know, this is you want to send a beer abroad that they're going to remember. Whereas here, you know, you're going to have beers that you want people to kind of try. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like try the different styles, and you want more of the beers that are kind of in a way sessionable.
Yeah,
because it's a whole. You know, you see the difference in the prices, and when you like, I've seen your beers in Japan, in Osaka. The shop that I buy all my stuff from there from always has Pohjala.
Yeah, we export 70% of what we produce, so we're actually bigger outside of Estonia than in Estonia. But yeah, it's like I think, like you said, drinkability has been a major kind of theme for us in this new place, that we know we can produce a lot more volume, and you know, to do that we need to produce drinkable beers that people will want to session or, you know, spend an evening with, so that they, you know, like the first beer that we released was like, what was it? Back then it was 9.5 ABV. So people had like 4 pints and passed out, and they were like, oh, I didn't realize it's so strong. So yeah, so that's kind of a new, not new kind of thinking, but we have broadened our range a lot.
It's interesting that, yeah. So the drinkability elements come as a natural evolution almost, yeah. So then let's look at that then. Because one of the questions that I have on here is like, you've talked about the journey of the brewery. So what do you think about the future of the brewery? Like, where do you see yourself going from here? You talked about the expansion. Is there any other goal? Do you see like another bigger place beyond this eventually, or are you quite happy with this? Or?
I mean, we still have so much unused capacity here that we can grow here by like 3 times, I think, from what we are right now. So we still have a lot of expansion possibilities here. So I wouldn't say a new brewer is in the works, but who knows? If we are doing good, then we'll probably do a new brewery, but probably not in Estonia. That's kind of that we have been talking about it. So what does the future hold? But if there's a new brewery someday, which is in distant future, it probably will be somewhere else.
Like maybe like North America or
North America, Asia, because we are doing pretty well in Asia, particularly China. So yeah, it would be something to kind of consider. But I mean, of course, we do plans, but like said before, we're not in it for the money. So it's kind of we like to evolve naturally. So we don't have any set goals that we have promised investors that we will build a new brewer in 5 years. That's not the case. So we can take it easy and keep doing what we do and what we love, and just see where it takes us.
And that seems to feel that's the best way to do it, and it's all about, as you said, it's all about keeping the passion for the beer and things as well.
Yeah.
So, well, the other question, if we step back a little bit again, because we've kind of answered, what was the sort of first beers that you tried and things like this. So, how about this then? Both of you, I guess, have done a bit of home brewing.
Yeah. Chris a lot more than me, but definitely we both have.
So what were your first encounters with home brewing then? How did you get into the idea of home brewing?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So for me it was kind of the gradual deepening of my interest in beer. So it was first I was just a consumer, then I started to take deeper interest, read about it, take beer tours, and it was kind of a logical next step that you want to make your own beer. So me and Peter, we enrolled at a home brewing course, which was conducted by Ilmar Räni, who is the founder and head brewer of Õllemaalt, another Estonian brewery. So Ilmar actually taught me how to brew, so thank you Ilmar. And so this was kind of the path that took us there. But my home brewing career was not a long one, so I didn't manage to brew a lot at home before we already had Chris on board and we were starting Põhjala and all that.
And for myself, it was back at university. Me and a couple of friends, we were kind of already into the craft beer, and we were going to some of the bottle shops over there, and we were trying some of the American stuff, which like now kind of realize was just, let's say, not at its prime. The first time that I had 60, I used to love 60-minute IPA by Dogfish Head, and then when I first went over to the States, and like we immediately stopped by a gas station, we picked up a 6-pack of that, and it was just crazy. It was like, this isn't at all what I remember. It's all malt. So
what's all this hops doing?
It was a very funny experience there. Same with Stone, some of the Stone stuff. But yeah, so for me it was with a group of friends, we kind of looked at diversifying, and we were just interested, like, we were on student budgets and you couldn't always get what you wanted anyway, like, for want of, like, not for lack of want of money even, like, so we were like, well, if we just can't get what we want, like, then let's just try making it. Let's try the experimentation that we were seeing some of the guys we were reading about doing. So I mean, one of us went into beer, one of us went into cider, one of us went into wine, and we just sort of started like trying to push a little buttons and see what happened, and tried our best. And I'm not going to lie, our first results were they were drinkable, but can't say much more than that. But eventually we just kept on going at it, and learned a lot. I mean, I went for when I was at university and we were doing all of the home brewing, and I went for a 2-week trial at Brewdog, and I remember coming back and being like, guys, we're doing everything so wrongly. We should be doing this. So it was quite a lot of it back in the day. Still a very, very fun hobby.
Oh yeah.
And I completely agree with your point that like where homebrewing culture is strong, then craft beer culture is very strong.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you see that in so many. I mean, one other trend I've noticed in the European beer scenes, where homebrewing is strong, you get good craft breweries like Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark. Denmark's got a free market, so maybe the homebrewing, they're a great beer country, but the homebrewing thing there maybe hasn't been as strong in that sense. But if you go to winemaking countries as well, Slovenia, Spain, Greece, Ketil Yikian from now he's in Crete now brewing. Forget what his.
He's now actually in the Czech Republic. They founded a new brewery together with our Russian distributors. So yeah, it's called Axiom. I don't exactly remember where it was, but yeah, Ketil has a new endeavor.
That's interesting because because it was solo beer, I think, in Crete.
Yeah,
solo
exactly.
Because that was
I think he still has it because he kind of divides his time between Crete, where he lives, and the Czech Republic, where he has this new project going on.
So it's amazing how you find these little things, because I had no idea about that, and that's one of the things when you do one of these YouTube channels, it's difficult to keep. Like I always say to the folk that follow it, tell me what new breweries and stuff that I should look at, because there's so much stuff going on. It's very difficult to kind of keep track of it. But that's interesting to hear where your kind of homebrewing route starts. So, in terms of drinking beer and perhaps I guess brewing as well, what are your favourite styles of beer?
I have to say I'm an IPA guy. So I drink a lot of IPAs, and I just love the style. It's kind of, I had a phase where I was trying out a lot of different stuff, but I somehow came back to the IPAs that are brewed with just the 4 core ingredients, nothing else, and I just love a well-made IPA. I mean, I can go on also about all the Belgian wild fermentation stuff, which is always great, but when I go to a bar and sit down with a friend or friends, it's usually IPA that I drink.
So is it, would you say, then we look at what kind of IPA, is it West Coast or New England, black, English?
I have to say, risking to be a victim of a fad, but I have very much taken to the New England style IPAs, so I really love them when they are well made, and I haven't tried fresh all the where it all started in actually like Trillium and Treehouse and all of these, but I mean I probably loved every single Cloudwater New England style IPA that I've had, so I'm a big fanboy of Cloudwater these days.
Oh yeah. There's very good breweries in England.
Yeah.
These days, you've got Wylam, Dea, other breweries as well. It's a thing. I've been quite lucky. People have sent me the Trilliums, the Treehouses and stuff. But what I take comfort in with that, I think, is that you try beers from the likes of. I've not had too many New England IPAs from yourselves, I think. But if I try stuff from the likes of Gamma Brewing or Dry and Bitter in Copenhagen, I'm just kind of like, this, the stuff that they're doing, and we've got Brewski and Dugas, these guys, I try these kind of beers. I found there was a brewery in Finland, Saselepat or something it was called, southwest Finland. I'm trying these kind of beers, and the thing that you take comfort in trying these is that the European breweries are at the same standard as the American ones. Exactly, yeah. So for all the and it's not a dig at any of these breweries in any shape or form, but you hear about Trillium, Treehouse, Hill Farm Style, all these things, but there are things here that are as good, I think.
Absolutely.
So I think definitely.
But I would drink like a strong, resiny West Coast style IPA also any day.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's, you know, I'm not much into the stuff with added fruit, but you know, either it's a pillowy New England or a resiny, bitter, tough West Coast IPA, I would drink. Just give it. I'll drink it.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the things I've kind of missed a little bit is the New England IPAs. I like them, but there's so many of them these days. There's not, you know. I think it would be nicer to have like a bit more variety, like the black IPAs. I miss, you know, like black salts and body malts. Total, one of the best ones you're going to find. You don't see black IPAs in West Coast. It's all about the New England these days. I think you do miss a bit of variety in the IPA category these days. I think, yeah, Chris, how about you? Your favourite styles?
For myself, I would say I'm a real lover of malt, to be honest. I know that it's never been cool and it never will be cool, but and don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore IPAs. Some of the best experiences have been drinking fresh IPAs from the taps. But like a well-made porter or a well-made sort of amber ale or an oatmeal stout or something like that. Malt is, maybe it's like Scottish sweet tooth coming back.
A barley wine.
Yeah, and even some of the things like a really good Irish red ale, just ones where it like highlights and showcases what depth malt can bring to a beer, because it's just the textural element of it is fascinating. I still feel that it's overlooked, and it always is going to be. I've come to terms with that, but that drives the inspiration for a lot of our darker stuff as well. Like this. One of our new releases is the collaboration with Tempest from the Lowlands, and that's a take on 160 shilling ale from Youngers. And that was then aged in 2 different types of whiskey barrels, but like that was basically a single malt, a single hop, and yeast obviously, and it was just like that beer showcases malt so damn well.
And it's a great beer, the Glen Noble. It's really nice.
You sure you're going to try that before you go?
Oh yeah.
Do we have it somewhere?
We have others.
Okay, very good.
Oh yeah, you know, because it's interesting to hear this from you, Chris, because I've said on the channel like so many times, like, you know, I love a good Scotch ale. Like whenever I go to another country, I always like, do you have Scotch ales?
We have made a Scotch ale called Mel Gibson, obviously.
Well, that's because I've never had it. I actually have. I bought a bottle of Duncan from Anderson's. That's the only one I've found so far. I didn't know that you guys had one as well.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah, and it was a one-off, so...
You need to make a rerun of that. Send it to Systembol, I can see.
But yeah, taste the Glen Noble. We followed up on that a little bit as well. We did to refill those old barrels. Then we like to try and sometimes do a second use out of them. And for that one, then we took the wee heavy style, but we used like a heavy dose of oats, like 30 to 40%, and just the mouthfeel on that. Like when you combine it with the sort of the classical Scotch ale tastes, it's just lovely.
It's interesting for me to hear that just as a sort of drinker, because, you know, as I was saying, like that you're talking about the Scottish sweet tooth, because I've said that, like, you know, for me, I love Scotch ales, Doppelbocks, love a good Doppelbock. You know, I do like milk stouts as well. Like you're saying, I love Imperial Reds, like the New Zealand Imperial Reds that I've had with some of the hops that they've got, like Raka or Waka, all of these kind of things. Something we don't really see over here. Those are crazy. The New Zealand hops are. I wish they were a bit more known over here. There's great hops from Slovenia as well, like Styrian Wolf. It'd be interesting to make like a barley wine or something, or a red ale with like Styrian Wolf. So, yeah. It's too many different things to do with that. Yeah. So there was Oh sure, no worries. So yeah, for you then, Ian, what would you say is your favourite beer travel location?
I'd have to think about it a bit, but I being a Cloudwater fanboy and a lot of good stuff coming from the north of England, I would say Manchester is definitely one of the destinations that I really like for beer. Florida has been always great because we've been attending the Cigar City's Huunapuu's Day Festival a few times, and I think I've been to Tampa for 2 or 3 times, and there is a great scene around there too. So I know the Tampa breweries pretty well, and we have good friends there. Cigar City for once, but also Cloudwater, Coppertail are our good buddies over there.
Yeah.
They do also some amazing stuff, like the Florida Vices that they make. These are awesome. And so yeah, kind of these 2 things are that pop to mind first, but of course you can't leave out Brussels. So if you like anything Belgian wild, then you know Brussels is always great. There are so good bars, and like you know, it's not a long way to Cantillon and so on. So these are maybe the first ones that come to mind right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I've heard. I mean, Florida, I need to check out a little bit. I've not done too much beer touring in the States. That's something that's coming next summer.
For me, I haven't been to California ever, so that's high up on my list.
Oh yeah. The other one I would recommend is Bamberg in Germany. To try Bamberg has Bamberg should be high on your list as well. You've got 9 breweries in the city. Franconia in northern Bavaria is definitely one as well. But yeah, Florida. It's interesting you mentioned Florida because that's a style that I feel I was saying on a video the other day was I need to explore the Florida IPA a little bit more. You know, the slightly lactobacillusy, crisp, slightly peaty IPAs. I need to
talking about beer destinations.
So that would be the question to you as well then, Chris. So your favourite beer travel
I do the same thing meanwhile.
One in, one out. Yeah, I would say like absolutely Seattle and Pacific Northwest. Those are 2. That's like quite honestly one of my absolute favourite trips that I've ever made was over there. Because I mean we go over there relatively frequently for the hot part of the season. You know, the Yakima Valley is around about there, so you'd normally fly into Seattle or Vancouver. But just blown away with what some of the guys out there are doing. You know, you've got Cloudburst, you've got all these guys. You've got Holy Mountain, who are really innovating in terms of sours and barrel aging stuff. There's like so many. I mean, it's like everywhere in the US, I guess. There's just so many breweries in such a tiny region. And the best part for me is that all of them that we tried there were absolutely killer. There was not a single bad brewery that we went to there. Freeman Brewing as well, and they're taking not just sort of a cool approach to the craftsmanship of it, because the majority of them are like they're either relatively small or even though they're bigger, then they haven't scaled up a lot of things they've in their mind because they've decided like, okay, so now we've got like this 50 to 100 hex system, you know, but we're still going to approach brewing as if we were on like a 10 hectoliter one, you know, we're still going to brew like a fresh hop one and we're going to get in like thousands of kilos of fresh hops right off the farm, and we're going to have to spend all day shoveling them in and out of this massive hop bag, but we're going to do it because we love it. We're going to hand wax all of our bottles. We're going to toast hundreds of kilos of hazelnuts and maple syrup for a single barrel or something. Some of the best IPAs I've had, some of the best barrel aged beers I've had. So I would clearly say that. But I would also say that Germany is definitely one where, to be honest, I would love to have a longer vacation myself. Just to taste the difference between like some of the Keller beers and the Helles between like regional German breweries, because these are all much larger guys, and their focus is very narrow in what they're brewing, but that doesn't mean that it's like narrow-minded in what they're doing. Every area will have their own specialty, their own particular tastes,
and they've had time to perfect it.
Exactly. There's something to be said for that. Like,
that's the Germans are the masters of that. I think is brewing is in terms of like quality control. The Germans are the masters of that. So, but that's something I was talking to my dad about recently. Is I love to go to do the Alt beers in Dusseldorf, the Kirches and Köln, and then the Dortmunders. that would be to do a sort of a week, do the 3 cities, do some Brauhaus filming. That's a future trip that's definitely on the cards.
And we love German engineering too.
Well, have you guys got a Schultz?
We have a Rolex.
A Rolex. Okay. Yeah, Rolex and Schultz are always the big boys in Germany.
And Gross.
Oh yeah, forgetting about those. Yeah, sorry any Germans that are watching. So our last couple of questions, I think we've actually we've kind of gone through most of these actually. So I guess we can kind of round off then and say, the last thing would be, what is the idea behind the brewery's name, Pohjala? And then also, what beer would you say you're most proud of that the brewery's put out and that you've brewed?
I get the first one, you take the second one. Think, what beer are you most proud of? Because you're the father of them all.
Jeez.
But I mean, the story behind the name Põhjala is that Põhjala actually means northern country or northern realm. So it's linked to mythology, which we share with Finland. So Finland, there is the same notion of Pohjola, which is the land up north where it's very dark, and there are some sinister creatures living there. It's cold and desolate. So we wanted to have like a local name for a brewery, but we didn't want to call it like the Numme Brewery after the part where we started, because obviously now we've moved, or after a street like another brewery did in Estonia. So we kind of took a bit of a broader perspective of what we consider is local, and since there's only 2% of the world's population who live more north than we do, the 59th parallel, then it kind of seemed a nice name and a good concept, kind of emphasizing where we're from. We are from the north, so that's kind of the main idea behind the name of the brewery. And also we really like that there's the letter Ö in the name, which is a bit difficult to pronounce for most people, but it looks kind of cool and adds a little bit a kind of different vibe to the name. So yeah, I know that in the States people usually call us Pohjala.
It's interesting you say that as well, because I've noticed that obviously when I first started doing this, I always wrote Põhjala Pruulikoda, but I noticed that more, you see this in Sweden and Denmark as well, then they would always, like a lot of breweries have changed their name now from using like Brew Kit, Brewery, all of these kind of things. They change, they'll just brewery, they just put the English version in. And I've noticed that a few of the Estonian ones, I think Puhasta do that now, they don't say Puhasta Pruulikoda, they say Puhasta Brewery.
But it's like the brewery or Pruulikoda, at the end of the name, this is kind of irrelevant for us. So we are just Pohjala. So that's basically it. Okay, our Facebook page is called Pohjala Brewery, but it's, as we had intentions of going not global, but at least starting exporting right away, because the Estonian market is really small. I don't know how well acquainted your viewers are with the Estonian population, but we are like 1.3 million. It's like a suburb of London, so it's kind of, that's the whole country. So there's not a lot of people here. So to kind of make a sustainable business, we had to think of entering export markets right away. So that was always part of the plan. That's why we use brewery instead of Pruulikoda, just to clarify what kind of business we are.
Exactly, it's an interesting thing to think about that as well, especially when yourselves. It's the same. I guess it's the same for the other Nordic countries too. I mean, Finland 4.5 million, Sweden 10, Norway like 4.5. The Danes are about 4.5 as well, something like that too.
Yeah.
So it's I think probably the Icelandics as well. I think the Icelandics
They have like 300,000 people.
300,000 people, yeah. So they do that as well. I mean, I've had a beer from Greenland as well, Kayak Brewery.
Whoa, okay. That would be cool.
Yeah, they do German style beers actually,
okay.
Really nice. But yeah, Kayak Brewery they're not even from Gotthard or Nuuk, the capital. They're from another very small.
Okay.
They've got a tap room and an old barn and everything. It's crazy. So maybe a collab for you guys.
Yeah. Would be cool to go to Greenland, because it's always nice in the winter to go to somewhere warm to have a holiday or something, but I get more and more interested in these really northern destinations that are, because of the harsh, unforgiving nature and all of that. So Greenland would be definitely a place I would be interested in going to.
Because for a while they were the most northernmost brewery in the world, but I don't know if a brewery in like Svalbard. I think there's a brewery in Svalbard.
Okay.
And I think they've overtaken. Yeah, they've overtaken them now. So yeah, there is one in Svalbard. But yeah, food for thought for future collaborations maybe.
Yeah, it kind of. Okay, never mind. You go ahead.
Well, talking about the beer that we're most proud of, it's not actually my favourite beer, but it's definitely the one that I would say that I'm most proud of, and I think many of us would be. It's the very first beer that started everything, because it is a beer that yes, things have changed on that recipe bit by bit, because I mean all people change and all tastes change, and nothing, in my opinion, should ever stay the same. That would be kind of stagnation. But it's a beer that really showed the world what Estonia could do by just being different, and it's a beer that we're still brewing to this day. And it's not just that one beer, but like that concept of like night. The name means night. That concept has spread to quite a lot of our range, and I mean you've got other beers like Untappd right now. I can't see exactly what we've got, but we've got like a cognac barrel aged version of that. We've got Untitled Winter Night, which is a different beer, but has very many nods and references in the malt bill and fermentation to that original beer, and that's then gone on to be aged in rum and bourbon. You've got Dark Night. So it's one beer that has really influenced like our whole set of releases from day one all the way up to now. We're still talking about playing around with like variations on that recipe or twists to it, which I really like. It's kind of a bit of it's like our totem pole of a dark beer, and it really kind of focuses our approach on what we are as a company. Our first beer that we released was dark beer. So that kind of like, whenever I think about it, whenever I drink one, I always kind of think back like, what would it have been if we were a brewery that started out by doing 5% IPA? Would that have been a bad thing? Absolutely not at all. But like, I still feel very proud that we had the guts.
Yeah, you're right. It would have been actually quite different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's encoded in our DNA, which I think is very cool.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what kind of comes to mind for me when I think about Pohjala. I think about the imperial stouts, and as I said, the first beer for me was the black IPA, and that was just the style I was into at the time. That was why I picked it. Just to say, Estonian brewery, black IPA, let's do that. That was it basically. But so it sounds like, how is your Estonian? You've been here 6 years now?
Seven,
yeah.
Nearly 7.5, I think.
Yeah.
It's not fluent yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah.
It's
It's one of these things. The Uric language is ridiculous, known for their kind of ridiculously difficult grammar. Yeah, I think Finnish, Estonian, Hungarian, the Uric languages, not ones that you want to try learning. Polish as well, is I think the other very difficult one in Europe. But yeah, it's good. But still enjoy being in Estonia.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think from my impression coming here, this is my second time. I think it's just incredible to see in like 30 years how much this country's grown. Like you were saying earlier on, Estonia punches above its weight in the beer world, but I think not just in that. I think in a hell of a lot of things. The digitals, it's one of the digital centres of Europe and things. It's a country that's doing very, very well, I think. And you guys should be very proud of what's been achieved here in 30 years, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, like the pride is definitely a thing, but I think the thing that I most like about Estonia is that it's a very livable place. It's good to live here. like there's lots of room. It's clean, it's efficient, and you know, I'm born and raised in Tallinn, and I will probably live here until the day I die.
No, I mean, that's the impression I get from it as well. I've always got lots of very positive things to say about Estonia as well. It's not too different from Scandinavia, I think, in a lot of ways for me. And yeah, it was great. But yeah, no, I think we can kind of round off there. So yes, to Em and to Chris, massive thank you for doing this. I've probably kept you guys away from your work a lot more than I should have.
No worries. Thanks for coming.
But yeah, no, but yeah, I think it's been awesome to do this. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. As I said, you know, Pohjala, probably the best known brewery in Estonia for foreigners. They've got a very impressive facility here. En is going to take me around and show me all the tanks and all the other random things in the brewery now. And yeah, probably when I come back to Tallinn next weekend, I'll do one of my out and about videos here in the tap room when it's open. But you know, again, thank you for letting me come here on a day that the place was closed up and things. That was really cool. It's cool to film the interview in the tap room.
Oh, be sure you take me to the sauna.
Oh, true. Yeah, of course.
Oh, the sauna, right?
It isn't warm, but you know, at least you get to see.
Oh,
so, I mean, we're in Estonia. You have to have a sauna in a tap room.
Oh yeah, why not? Yeah, we need to look at that. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was the second Meet the Brewer installment. There will be many more to come. And yeah, cool to get one filmed here while I'm at my friend's wedding in Estonia. So yeah, thank you again, guys. And cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.